The crystal glasses clinked as my family celebrated another successful year of Mason Industries. Our penthouse overlooking Central Park sparkled with expensive decorations, and the air was thick with the scent of imported champagne and success. I stood in the corner, nursing my drink, watching my older brother Mark charm potential investors with his rehearsed smile. My younger sister Victoria flitted between social media influencers, her designer dress catching the light. Our parents, Richard and Elizabeth Mason, held court near the grand piano, basking in their children's perceived successes. Well, two of their children anyway. Olivia, my mother's voice cut through my thoughts. Stop hiding in the corner. The Henderson's son is here. He's a successful surgeon now. I sighed. Mom, I told you, I'm not interested in. Of course you're not interested, she hissed, maintaining her perfect smile. You're never interested in anything that could actually benefit this family. Before I could respond, my father clinked his glass, gathering everyone's attention. Thank you all for joining us this New Year's Eve. As we close another record year at Mason Industries, I'd like to acknowledge those responsible for our success. I knew what was coming, the same speech as every year. Mark, my son, whose brilliant financial strategies have increased our profits by 30%. Applause filled the room. Mark bowed slightly, though I knew his brilliant strategies mostly involved laying off longtime employees and cutting corners on quality. Victoria, my princess, whose social media presence has made Mason Industries the most talked about luxury brand. More applause. Victoria beamed, conveniently forgetting to mention the paid bots that inflated her follower count. Then my father's eyes landed on me, his expression hardening slightly. And Olivia. The silence was deafening. Speaking of Olivia, my mother stepped forward, her smile not reaching her eyes. Darling, why don't you tell everyone about your latest project? I straightened my spine. Actually, I've been developing a new sustainable manufacturing process that could revolutionize. Still playing with your little experiments? Mark interrupted, laughing. When are you going to grow up, sis? Mark's right, my father said, his voice carrying across the now quiet room. It's time we address this. You're 28, Olivia, and what have you accomplished? Nothing but wasted resources and embarrassing failures. I felt the room's eyes on me, saw the pitying looks, the barely concealed smirks. Richard, my mother touched his arm. Perhaps this isn't the time. No, it's exactly the time, he continued, alcohol making him bolder. You're like a lost puppy, Olivia. Always following around with your ideas, begging for attention, for approval. But you know what happens to strays that can't find their way? They get left behind. The room had gone completely silent now. Even Victoria had stopped taking selfies. Dad, I started, but he waved me off. I'm done supporting your pointless experiments. As of tonight, your access to company resources is revoked. Your trust fund is frozen. It's time you learn to survive in the real world. But my research is worthless, he spat. Just like every other project you've pursued, you're not fit to carry the Mason name. I looked around the room. Mark was smirking, Victoria was pretending to be fascinated by her phone, and my mother simply looked away. The guests shuffled uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. Something inside me shifted. Years of doubts, of trying to prove myself, of believing I needed their approval. It all crystallized into perfect clarity. I placed my glass down carefully on the nearest table. You're right, Dad. I'm not fit to carry the Mason name. Because unlike the rest of you, I actually want to create something meaningful. How dare you? He started, but I cut him off. You want to cut me off? Fine, but remember this moment. Remember how you treated your lost puppy daughter. Because I promise you, everyone in this room will. I turned to leave, but my father's voice stopped me. If you walk out that door, don't ever come back. You'll have nothing. No money, no connections, no future. I looked back one last time, taking in their faces, my father's rage, my mother's carefully crafted indifference, my siblings' smug satisfaction. That's where you're wrong, Dad. For the first time in my life, I'll have everything I need. I walked out of the penthouse to the sound of whispers and my father's angry calls. As the elevator doors closed, I pulled out my phone and made a call. Dr. John, it's Olivia. Remember that offer you made about my sustainable manufacturing process? I'm ready to discuss terms. As I stepped out into the crisp New Year's Eve air, I smiled. They thought they were abandoning a lost puppy, They had no idea they'd just unleashed a wolf. And in exactly 1 year, they'd understand exactly what they'd lost. 6 months after that fateful New Year's Eve, my worthless sustainable manufacturing process revolutionized the industry. Dr. John's investment firm had recognized its potential immediately, something my family had been too arrogant to see. I sat in my new office at Zhang Innovations, watching business news coverage of Mason Industries' latest scandal. Their factories had been caught violating environmental regulations, Mark's cost-cutting measures coming back to haunt them. Miss Mason. My assistant Sarah poked her head in. The Reuters reporter is here for your interview. I smiled. It's just Olivia Chen now. I filed the name change last week. The reporter, David Wells, was exactly what I expected, sharp eyes and sharper questions. Your sustainable manufacturing process is being called the biggest innovation in the field this decade. What inspired you? I saw an industry desperate for change. I replied, thinking of the toxic waste I discovered in Mason Industries reports. Someone needed to step up. And the timing? Your former family's company is facing serious environmental violations. Any connection? I kept my expression neutral. I prefer to focus on solutions rather than competitors' problems. The interview continued, but my mind drifted to the encrypted email I'd received that morning from Victoria's former assistant. Apparently, my sister's social media empire was built on more than just bot followers. She'd been accepting payments to promote counterfeit luxury goods. The evidence sat safely in my private server, waiting for the right moment. After the reporter left, Dr. Zhang entered my office. At 65, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who'd broken every glass ceiling she'd encountered. The board approved your proposal, she announced. We're expanding into luxury goods manufacturing. I nodded, trying to contain my excitement. And the partnership offers. 3 major brands want exclusive rights to our sustainable process. She paused. Mason Industries also reached out. Of course they had. Their stock had dropped 30% after the environmental scandal. What did you tell them? That they should contact our head of innovation directly. She smiled. I believe you're familiar with their management. The next day, my father's name appeared on my caller ID for the first time in 6 months. I let it go to voicemail. Olivia. His voice was strained, missing its usual authority. We should talk. About business. Call me back. 3 more calls followed. Then came the emails, each more desperate than the last. Finally, a text from Victoria. Dad's going crazy. The board is threatening to remove him. Please just talk to him. I focused on my work instead. Our new luxury goods division was taking shape, built on ethical practices and genuine innovation. Everything Mason Industries wasn't. Then Mark showed up at my office. Nice place, he sneered, looking around. Though it's no Mason Industries. That's the point, I replied, not offering him a seat. What do you want, Mark? We need your manufacturing process. The board's given Dad 3 months to fix the environmental issues, or they're voting him out. Sounds like a personal problem. He leaned forward. Listen, you've made your point. You're not just a family failure anymore. Now come home, help save the company, and we can all move forward. I pulled up a file on my computer, turning the screen toward him. Like you moved forward with these factory reports, the ones showing you knew about the toxic waste 3 years ago. His face paled. How did you? Or maybe like Victoria moved forward with her counterfeit goods scheme. Amazing what people will tell you when you actually treat them with respect. You wouldn't dare. I already did. I showed him the morning's financial news on my tablet. Mason Industries stock had dropped another 15% as rumors of the counterfeit scandal began circulating. You're destroying our family, he whispered. No, Mark. The family destroyed itself. I'm just refusing to sync with it. After he left, I received another call, this time from the board of Mason Industries, bypassing my father entirely. They wanted to discuss a potential acquisition. That evening, Dr. Zhang found me still in my office. The board's offer is strong, she said, placing the proposal on my desk. With this, you could take control of Mason Industries completely. I stared at the documents, thinking of all the years I'd spent trying to prove myself to my family. What would you do? She smiled. I'd remember that success is the best revenge, but mercy shows true strength. I picked up my phone and dialed a familiar number. Dad, we need to talk. Not about the past, but about the future of Mason Industries. I have some conditions. As I laid out my terms, complete restructuring of the management, implementation of ethical practices, and my position as CEO, I thought about that lost puppy they'd thrown away on New Year's Eve. She hadn't just found her way, she found her power. 1 year to the day after being thrown out, I stood in the same penthouse where it had all ended and begun. The New Year's Eve party was smaller this time, more subdued. The guest list consisted of board members, key employees, and a carefully selected group of media representatives. I adjusted my designer suit, ethical fashion, naturally, and stepped up to the podium that had been set up near the grand piano. Welcome, everyone. What a difference a year makes. The crowd chuckled nervously. They all knew the story by now. It had been impossible to keep quiet once the acquisition was announced. The lost puppy who'd returned as CEO was too good a narrative for the media to resist. My father sat in the corner, looking smaller somehow in his expensive suit. My mother kept her eyes fixed on her champagne glass. Mark and Victoria were notably absent. Mark had resigned to pursue other opportunities after the toxic waste evidence came to light, and Victoria was busy rebuilding her reputation after the counterfeit scandal broke. Mason Industries has undergone significant changes this year, I continued. Our new sustainable manufacturing process has not only solved our environmental issues but has made us an industry leader in ethical production. Dr. Zhang, now our board chairperson, nodded approvingly from her seat. Our stock has recovered and exceeded previous highs. Our employees have better working conditions and benefits. And our reputation. I paused, allowing myself a small smile. Well, let's just say we're known for more than scandals these days. The crowd applauded. Even my father managed a weak clap. After the speech, as guests mingled and celebrated, my mother approached me. You look well, she said stiffly. Amazing what success can do for one's appearance. She flinched. Olivia, I should have stood up for you that night. Yes, you should have. I took a sip of champagne, but then I might never have found my strength. Are you happy? She asked suddenly. With all of this? I considered the question. I'm satisfied. Happiness wasn't the goal. What was? Justice, change, proving that doing things the right way can be more profitable than cutting corners and crushing people. She nodded slowly. Your father, he's different now. Quieter. He spends a lot of time in his study, looking at old family photos. He's welcome to keep his position as consultant, I replied, as long as he remembers who's in charge now. My father chose that moment to approach. He aged years in the past 12 months. Olivia, he said, his voice rougher than I remembered. I've been working on that proposal you requested, about implementing educational programs for sustainable manufacturing in underprivileged communities. Good. Have it on my desk Monday morning. He hesitated. I was thinking, perhaps we could discuss it over dinner. As a family? I studied him carefully. The arrogance was gone from his eyes, replaced by something that looked almost like hope. Business dinners are on Thursdays. You can schedule time with my assistant. He nodded, accepting the boundary. And personal dinners. Need to be earned, I replied firmly. Trust isn't rebuilt over a single meal. My mother touched his arm. We understand. We'll do whatever it takes, Olivia. However long it takes. Later that night, after the guests had left, I stood on the penthouse balcony where I'd made that life-changing phone call to Dr. Zhang a year ago. The city sparkled below, full of possibilities I'd never seen when I was trying to view it through my family's narrow lens. Sarah, my assistant, brought me the latest reports. The community outreach program is ready to launch, and Ms. Victoria sent an email requesting a meeting to discuss potential involvement. Tell her to apply through proper channels, like anyone else. And Mr. Mark, still trying to start his own company in Boston, keep monitoring the situation. Sarah hesitated. There's one more thing. Dr. Zhang is retiring next month. The board is unanimously recommending you for the chairperson position. I smiled, looking out over the city, from lost puppy to CEO to chairperson, but titles weren't what mattered anymore. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Zhang. Proud of you, Olivia. You've created something meaningful. And that was it, wasn't it? The thing my family had never understood. Success wasn't about maintaining appearances or accumulating power. It was about creating positive change, about lifting others up instead of pushing them down. The lost puppy hadn't just found her way home. She'd built a better home, one where others could find their way too. As the clock struck midnight and fireworks lit up the sky, I raised my glass to the new year, to new beginnings, to second chances earned, not freely given, to the strength that comes from being underestimated, and most of all, to the lost puppy who'd become exactly who she was meant to be.